Hello everybody, welcome back to regular Bible study. Now that we've come back from our side tangents about like Enki and Enlil and all that other stuff, let's get back to the task at hand. And at this point, in the book of Joshua, Moses is gone, presumably murdered, in my opinion. I'm allowed to have that opinion. I mean, like I said last time, it literally says that even though Moses was healthy and could see straight and think straight, Yahweh told him it was his time to go, sends him up to Mount Nebu. He goes up to Mount Nebu. Now, spoiler alert, because we haven't gotten to the book of Jude yet in the New Testament. We're nowhere close to that. But I would like to bring up briefly that Moses does come up again in the book of Jude, and in reference to his death. Now, apparently after he was dead, there was a kerfuffle between between the Archangel Michael and the devil over Moses' body. And just wanted to bring that up. It's interesting. I don't necessarily want to speculate on it just yet. I just thought it was fascinating. Why would they need to fight over a dead body? But anywho, that's for another day. Now that Moses is gone, Yahweh appoints Joshua to be the new leader, to be the one to lead them to the promised land, to lead them into these lands that already are occupied, and to lead these people into committing a total genocide on everyone in this land. Now, does this not sound familiar? This sounds like ironically similar to what's going on right now. But anyways, now after Moses' death, like I said, Yahweh approaches Joshua to let him know that he is to be the leader. And now I just wanted to read Joshua 1 verses 1 to 4. So that way we're clear on what it is that Yahweh wants Joshua to do. Okay. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. So it's almost as if the land promise has gotten even bigger. Because you see the map on the screen right now. So far, this is the land that was going to be promised to them. And then now it sounds like that he's even adding to that promise. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not only, like they have all this land also, but they'll also get the land of the Hittites up here. Oh, my bad. And so he's even sweetening the deal, if you will. Now, my speculation and opinion, and in case you haven't caught on yet, I am reading this from the point of view and perspective and from the hypothesis that Yahweh, even though he's promising them all this land and they're trying to make it sound like he's freed them from slavery and all this stuff, my opinion is that he separated Abraham long, long ago from ancient Mesopotamia, separated him, and as the time went on, Abraham and his descendants, time goes on and on and on. My speculation is that Yahweh was grooming them, generationally training them and programming them to be his personal slaves. He's promising them all this stuff, all this land. He's basically making it like you guys will have everything and everyone else will have nothing. I will give you everything and everyone else will be like cows to you, like cattle, like slaves to you. And all the meanwhile, they don't realize that he's programming them to be his cattle and slaves. This is my opinion. This is my opinion of what's happening. And, I mean, I'm allowed to have that opinion. To be honest, it makes more sense in my mind that this is what's happening rather than he just freed them from slavery out of the goodness of his heart, only to then strand them in the middle of the desert for 40 years, abuse them, kill them, starve them, do all this horrible things to them just to make them go and slaughter entire tribes. Like, so I don't think he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. I don't think he did this to free them. And I think we need to get that out of our heads. Okay? This is an evil entity. Now, I went off on that side tangent because, I don't know, I just want to make sure that everyone watching these videos knows where I stand and what point of view I'm reading this from, in case you don't want to watch, because I know this isn't for everybody. I remember it wasn't that long ago when I would have probably called someone like me a heathen or what. I don't know what I would have called myself. But on that note, I would like to add that I very much do believe that God is real. I just believe that Yahweh is pretending to be the real God. That's just my opinion. And with all that being said, I believe that Joshua, in my opinion, might possibly know this. I mean, I definitely believe Moses knew this and was getting upset about it towards the end of his life. That's just my opinion. Him and Aaron both, my opinion. Joshua, I'm not really sure where he stands. He seems to be just like a Yahweh worshiper. I think he's cool with this all. He's cool with selling out people as human beings. He's cool with that as long as he's the leader and whatnot. That's my perspective. And I could be totally wrong. But, so anyways, let's get back to the story. Joshua, now that he's in charge, he decides to send 2 spies into Jericho, to scope it out, check out the land, see what's what, kind of like they did before. But remember, when they did it before, it was 40 years prior to this. So, he needs to obviously do another scout it out again. This is 40 years later. And so he does. He sends 2 spies. Now, they apparently must stick out like a sore thumb, because it doesn't take long for word to reach the king in Jericho that there's some spies in his land. They go and try to hide. They go and hide in this prostitute's house. And she does. She hides them. Now, it's not really clear if these prostitutes... She seems to be... She lives in the city wall. She actually lives in the city wall. So, I don't know if the people who live in the city wall are higher echelons or not, or if they're the lower echelons. I don't know. But for whatever reason, she decides to help these spies. She decides to sell out her own people, more or less, and help these spies in exchange for her and her family's lives. And so it's interesting because at this point, she claims to these 2 spies that everyone in Jericho is afraid, and they thought that they might be coming because word had reached them about the horrors the havoc that was wreaked at the Red Sea 40 years prior, which is curious. This is like 40 years later, and they're still fearful about it. It's interesting to me. But anyways. So basically, they make this deal with her that they'll spare her and her family as long as they all stay in her quarters where she lives, that she stays there with her family, and as long as none of them step foot outside. If they step foot outside, that it'll be on them. And for her to, hang a red rope out of her window so they know which home she lives in. And I also find this interesting because if the walls of Jericho come down, how does it, that spot of the wall, the only spot that doesn't come down? That's interesting to me. Or do they go and get her and retrieve her? I don't know. It's been a while since I've read it. Let me read on and we'll find out. So then the spies do end up making back to camp eventually. She warns them to hide in the opposite place where she sent the guards to go look so that they don't get caught. And they make it back to the Israeli camp, in which they give word to Joshua and everything that everyone's scared and that it should be good to go because everyone's already in fear. So that's like half the job. And so they all decide to head out in the morning. But the instructions have to be pretty specific because of the Ark of the Covenant. There's always special instructions as far as this Ark is concerned. And now the specific instructions are that the Ark is supposed to be at least, 2,000 cubits between them and the Ark. So they're not supposed to be able to go near it. The Ark carries out before they do. And Joshua gives them the instructions to consecrate themselves. I'm not really sure what that means. If that means that they And call me stupid, call me dumb. What does that mean? Some of these religious experts should let me know. Does that mean to, like, pray, put holy oil on? What does that mean? Anyway, someone let me know if they know what that means. Okay, so we're at Joshua 3. I'm going to start verse 6. Joshua said to the priest, "Take up the ark of the covenant and pass on ahead of the people." So they took it up and they went ahead of them. And then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so that they know I am with you, as I was with Moses. Tell the priest who carried the ark of the covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river." And then, basically, Joshua tells the Israelites for them to all come and to listen to the words of the Lord their God. I don't know if they're actually listening to Yahweh himself, or if Joshua is just simply repeating what Yahweh tells him. That bit's unclear. And so when they went and stood in the middle of the Jordan River, what happened was some kind of, I don't know, force field of some sort gets put up, and then the waters kind of pile up on one side and cuts it off, so people are able to cross. People are able to cross the Jordan River. And so that's essentially what happened. This Ark of the Covenant is a strange piece of technology. It really is. And then, once they crossed, while they were still standing there in the river and holding the water up with their weird ark, they got 12 stones out of the river. I'm not sure if this is relevant. I'm just bringing it up for now. They took 12 stones out of the riverbed and set up some sort of little monument in their camp on the west side of the Jordan. So, anyways, I don't know. The Bible says it's still there to this day, but what day are they referring to? I'm assuming the day that they wrote all this down, so who knows. Okay, anyways. So that's all done. Now that they set up camp, they're on the other side of the Jordan. Now what? Well, it's kind of weird. Because Yahweh tells Joshua to make knives. And here, let me read it. Joshua 5, verse 2 to 3. At that time, the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites. Now, what does that mean, again? Now, I'm not a doctor, but I thought you could only be circumcised once. Like, what the fuck? Or is this the first time? No, it says again. I mean, unless that's a mistranslation, which is always possible. A lot of this is mistranslated, but... So your first step in a battle plan is to perform surgery on all your soldiers. Like, to make them vulnerable? Like, this is strange. To me. I don't know if I know according to the Bible, the circumcision rule had long been established, but had it actually, or was this the first time they were hearing of this rule? I can't help but wonder, because you know what I mean? When you catch entities lying, you can't help but to question everything else that they've lied about. You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, Yahweh wanted Joshua to have all the Israelites be circumcised again, or if they weren't yet for the first time. Weird. So they would have to sit there and heal. They'd have to sit there and heal before they could actually charge into Jericho. Oh crap, if I would have just read a verse ahead, verse 4. Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. So this is a whole new generation who had not yet been circumcised. Even though allegedly this covenant had long been established. I guess they just forgot. Even though they were being supervised by the one who made this rule, I guess he forgot too. This all-powerful God. I guess he forgot too. Interesting, right? So yeah, I mean, that's a huge deal for me. This might seem minor, but I don't know. It's kind of a huge deal to me. It's definitely an inconsistency at best. I don't want to say it's an outright lie, but it's definitely an inconsistency. Because like I said, this whole circumcision rule was supposed to have been established back with Abraham. Now, how many generations from Abraham are we removed at this point? And the way they said, well, this is why he did it, because this is the next generation. But they didn't start the circumcision in Egypt. They started it with Abraham. So it is an inconsistency. I don't want to be gaslit about it. It's an inconsistency. And it doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, let's move on. So they're all there healing from their circumcision. And then, weirdly enough, one of Yahweh's right-hand lieutenants comes to visit Joshua, and I guess to give them a report, to tell them what they are to do, to give them specific instructions on how they're to take on Jericho, because it has to be specific, because it's the Ark of the Covenant. So everything has to be done very carefully and coordinated, because this Ark is a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous machine. And apparently God can't control it. So, anyways. Now, the instructions, we all know, is 7 priests. They've got these horns, and they walk around the walls for like 7 days. And then on the 7th day, they blow the horns and shout, and then the walls fall down. All except for, I guess, Rahab's spot. That doesn't get blown up. So then that happens. They're all just charging. They're just charging. And they're not supposed to mess with any of the sacred stuff. Not supposed to touch that. But they are to give Yahweh all, like, the silver and the gold. Here, let me read the verse. Joshua 6, verse 19. All the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury. So, they basically kill all these people, rob them, take their land. What they're doing to Gaza right now. But this is what, you can't be too mad at them. This is what they're programmed to do. They've been programmed since these times to do exactly what they're doing today. And it's sad because at the end, they're all from the same ancestors. Like, they're all related. They're all cousins, pretty much. They've been tricked for thousands of years to kill their own family, essentially. It's really fucked up. But I'm not going to get off on a side tangent. But guess what? Rahab gets saved and all this and that, and her father and brother and everyone who helped the spies and all this. And then they burn the whole city and everything in it, and they gave Yahweh the silver and the gold. They do all this. And here's another interesting thing that happens. Okay, so Joshua 6. I'm going to read this. Joshua 6, verses 26 to 27. At that time, Joshua pronounced this solemn oath: cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild this city. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundations. At the cost of his youngest, he will set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land. Did you all catch that? In order to rebuild the buildings, and this is a huge thing. This is a huge thing in ancient history. They sacrificed his firstborn son, and then for the gates, his youngest. So more child sacrifice, more genocide, more child sacrifice. Like the most evil things. So when everyone says that, like, that these people are pretending to be the original, I think, and it's not just Judaism, it's Christianity, it's Islam, it's all 3 of those religions. They're all Catholics, or however many there are, 4, I guess. Catholicism too. It's all worshiping the same God, right? Yahweh. It's all Enlil. This is Enlil that they're all worshiping. And then the elite ones, the ones at the very top, like at the Vatican, for example, or at that black cube in Saudi Arabia, or if it's in Jerusalem, or no matter where the headquarters are for all these faiths, there's some evil shit going on, I'd wager. Because it's the pattern. The elites, the triangle is the shape the way it is for the reasons that very top tippy point is a very small group of people who are doing some evil shit. And I'm not just trying to pick on Judaism. I believe they do this in the Vatican. I believe they do that too. I believe they do it. were at that in Mecca. This is my opinion. I'm allowed to have it. Like, I mean, I think that the top of all these institutions, organizations, are some evil pedophiles. I do. It's not just our government, it's the religious institutions. Where do you think the government got this from? Where did they learn this from? Anyways, I'm going off on my side tangent again. But I'm sorry, I can't help it. I get upset when I begin reading about like things like child sacrifice and things like that. It makes me very upset. Oops. And it says clearly here in Joshua the price it took for Jericho. Which always makes me wonder, all the other cities they burned and tore down and destroyed, what was the price for that? How many kids did they sacrifice for all of this? But here's the thing about when you like make deals with like entities like Enlil and whatnot. You know what I mean? You gotta like, there's no room for error. And as we can see in the very next chapter, in Joshua chapter 7, what happens when just one solo individual acting alone disobeys and takes some of these sacred articles, doesn't tell anybody, then everyone had to suffer. In Yahweh's mind, everyone had to suffer. So then when they went to go attack, I don't know how to pronounce it, I don't know, AI. Isn't that interesting? The name of the city is AI. So then when they go and attack AI, Yahweh makes it so they lose and get defeated. Here, let me read Joshua 7, 7, verse 6. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till the evening. The elders of Israel did the same, and sprinkled dust on their heads. And Joshua said, Alas, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. Pardon your servant, Lord. What can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? And, you know, he just goes on and on and on, crying and upsetting. And then Yahweh finally does tell him, well, it was because you stole something you weren't supposed to. So, in exchange for that, a whole bunch of people had to die. Does that sound right? Because one guy stole some sacred items. Then in battle, a whole shit ton of them got slaughtered because of that one act. Does that sound right? It's weird. It's like that tactic that they do in school. Did this happen to anyone else back in the day, back in school, when like one kid in the class like messed up or did something wrong, then the whole entire class had to like pay for it, essentially. And then all that really did was just make like the whole class mad at that one person, make everyone argue with each other. Kind of similar to that, you know, but on a much more devastating scale, you know. And this just happens constantly. Like the value of human life to Yahweh is just not much. I mean, you know, we can argue about that, say what you want, God, excuse this behavior, which I used to do as well. Yahweh doesn't value human life. He doesn't. Not so far have I seen him value life at all. This is mind control programming, is what it is. It's mind control programming. But, which I think that's a good place to stop for today. It's a good place to stop. You know, it's just, that's what I love about history. Like, when you look at it, it's just like the same thing over and over again. Even like their version of history, even though that we know it's not the full picture and a lot of it's largely inaccurate. When you look at the different pieces of it, it's really what it just comes down to. And it always amazes me, just like seeing people like sell out their own people and whatnot. It's just, you would think that by now at least, we would learn and see that. I mean, is money and power ever worth selling out your own people? I mean, think about something. If like when people like for example, Hillary Clinton like take deals or whatnot and sells out humanity or whatnot, they might think that their own selves and children are protected. But whenever you see throughout history these deals taking place, that's never true. It's never true. Because there's no honor among thieves and liars. Like, they're not going to honor your agreements that they make with you. And that's such a naive way to think that. And it just keeps happening, and I wish it would stop happening. I wish people would stop being naive. I wish people would wake up, and I wish we would all start having these kinds of conversations about our religions, about our institutions, about all of them. I know I talk a lot about Christianity and the Bible, and that's only because I know a lot more about it. But honestly, I think they're all forms of control at the end of the day. Yes, I do believe God is real, and I am a very spiritual person. I'm a very sensitive person. I just believe that this was all meant to distract and control us, and to make this our base point. Because if this is always our base point, we will never get the full picture. You know what I mean? And I truly believe that's been our biggest problem. I believe humanity has had to learn the same lessons over and over and over and over and over and over again, because they keep destroying our history, they keep erasing it. And I believe we've had to repeat these same cycles over and over and over and over again. And they're trying to do it again. Every time we get close to the truth and awakening, they pivot, start a war, or genocide, like you name it. Like they'll do anything to keep their power. It's getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. How many times are they going to destroy the world? You know what I mean? Like, you can't just keep doing this forever. You know what I mean? You're going to have to just let us grow and evolve. But anyways, with all that said, I'm going to come back next week. We'll continue on this journey through the Bible, trying to dissect the truth from the lies the best we can. I mean, you know what I mean? I know I'm not going to get it totally right, but we're going to do our best. Because, yeah, something stinks, something's not right. Have a good day. Happy Sunday.